What is going on, everybody? I wanted to give a belated Merry Christmas and an early Happy New Year to everyone who might be watching this channel today. We have the week off. We've had 2 weeks off going into the new year. We don't come back until January 6th. And I don't do very well with downtime at all. So there was too many things in the news that I wanted to talk about, that I wanted to get a chance to make videos on, that I decided, you know what, it's a couple of days late. Other people have since covered topics like these ones here, but I want to talk about it because I think that they're interesting, and it goes to what we talk about in Hollywood. It goes to what we talk about the organization of these companies, and frankly, WB is one of the ones that I care about more than some of the other companies. I care more about the DC films than I do about the Marvel films. I just take a general interest in it, and this one sucks because if you see the headline right there, The Batman Part 2 release date pushed back to the year 2027. Remember, this movie came out, what was it, March of 2022? The film came out, the Matt Reeves Batman movie, and now they're pushing it back. Every year they push it back again and again and again, and there's all sorts of back and forth. Is it going to connect to James Gunn and the DCU? All of that stuff, but let's go through it. I've got my own thoughts on it. So it says, Warner Brothers announced a new release date for The Batman Part 2, pushing it back from 2026 to 2027. The Batman Part 2 moves from October 2nd, 2026 to October 1st, 2027. Originally, it was supposed to be released in 2025. Again, every year, they just push it back further and further and further. It gets very freaking annoying. March 2022, the original movie came out. Deadline and The Hollywood Reporter added that filming isn't supposed to begin on the sequel until late in the summer or the third quarter. Deadline also said that the sequel will be visual effects heavy and will be released in IMAX. Robert Pattinson will also be filming the new Christopher Nolan movie next year. I think he's making his version of The Odyssey, which I saw more people having discourse about on Twitter during the holiday break, because nobody actually takes the time to be with their family and their friends and their loved ones. They take their time to argue on the internet about people who have never heard of The Odyssey. That is what people do. So it says, these were James Gunn's comments, which I thought were very interesting, but I think a little bit off the mark. Again, he's the professional. I am not, but I just thought some of this was a little bit off the mark. It says, sure, yes, this is true. The only reason for the delay is that there isn't a full script. Those of you who follow me here probably know that already. Matt is committed to making the best film he possibly can, and no one can accurately guess exactly how long a script will take to write. I love the idea of working in a profession where I could just be like, you know what? It gets done when it gets done. I suppose that's the benefit of delivering on your prior engagements, your prior investments for a company, right? Is you'd be like, oh, you can't rush genius. And granted, I don't think that the Batman was genius by any stretch of the imagination. It was meh to me. But the point is, only in Hollywood can you just be like, oh, you gave me however hundreds of millions of dollars. It gets done when it gets done. He continues, once there is a finished script, there is around 2 years for pre-production, shooting, and post-production on big films. Look, I actually support at least this part. And what I'm saying is that Hollywood has an epidemic of people just going to start shooting. And Marvel is particularly bad at this. They just go in and they just start principal photography when there isn't even a script finished yet, and it shows in the final product when you have a mess of a production from the start, because the film is messy and the audience can tell. So at the very least, I support the idea of making sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, everyone's set, you've got a script that everyone agrees on, then you go to work. So that part I agree with. He says, and this is the part that I disagree with. He says, to be fair, a 5-year gap or more is fairly common in sequels. 7 years between Alien and Aliens, 14 years between The Incredibles, 7 years between the first 2 Terminator movies, 13 years between Avatars, 36 years between Top Guns, and of course, 6 years between Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3. Okay. All right. So let's go through these. So 7 years between Alien and Aliens. I disagree with this in general because the world was very, very different and the entertainment landscape was very, very different when Alien and Aliens were made, meaning that nowadays, look, people are bombarded by entertainment and social media constantly. So you are fighting constantly for the attention of the viewer. And when you have these long gaps, look at Stranger Things. Like, that is one that I think in particular where every time they take these large gaps between seasons in Stranger Things, like, look, Millie Bobby Brown looks like she's 25 now. She's 22. These were supposed to be kids when this show started. It makes it a lot harder. And in that case, it's streaming. It's a little bit different. But when we're talking at the theaters, look, people have a million things to draw their attention. You're fighting for that attention. And I think that people would appreciate and perhaps give a little bit more credence to your project if it seemed like stuff wasn't getting backburnered. Like, we may know that this might be script stuff, this might be behind the scenes stuff. There may be a million legitimate reasons for something to take forever to come out, but most people are going to look at it and say, why wasn't it made a priority? Why didn't you give it a priority? James Cameron's Avatar doesn't even count. James Cameron releasing that film, I was honestly very, very surprised, but I think that is the exception and not the rule to this. Most people prefer the first Incredibles to the second one anyways. Terminator 2 is very, very different than the first Terminator movie, though, to be fair, it is the more beloved of the sequels. Is the most beloved of the films in the franchise. So you've got that. I just think that in the current entertainment climate, that 7 years between films, especially when Robert Pattinson is supposed to be portraying a younger version of Bruce Wayne in Batman. Look, I've got some memes to show you that we're going to get into later in this video, but people are clowning on the fact that dude's going to age. By the time you get to making this movie, he can't exactly be Batman year 2 if the dude looks like he's getting close to AARP age, which of course he's not, but the joke stands, the point remains. So let's go on. He also confirmed that he'll be filming, that's the stuff about the Odyssey. I just think that this is the type of thing where DC, look, they've got constant bad press in the past from the idea of mismanagement, one of those being studio interference in projects. Now, I'm going to be getting into that more because I'm going to cover the test screenings for Superman. But one of the things that DC needs to do is they need hits, and they need them consistently. There was a lot of discourse around the fact that people were saying that the Superman trailer is indicative of the most important film to ever come out for Warner Brothers and DC. They cannot screw this up. I don't think that they can afford to screw up the Batman 2 either. They cannot afford to have any missteps at all. If you look at the films that have come out in the last couple of years, and I had to literally write them down earlier because I had forgotten so many of them that existed. Think of Black Adam, okay? People thought that The Rock was going to be the savior of the DCU. No, gone. They also thought he was going to bring back Henry Cavill as Superman. Gone. Now we're on to David Cornsweet. Then we had Shazam, Joker 2, Blue Beetle, The Flash, the Batgirl debacle. There is not a lot of goodwill built up on the studio side of these things. Look, they had a lot of good press coming out of The Penguin, and they're about to squash it all and ruin it, roll it up and throw it away because they can't get this film out on time. And their business, their job, but I think that you're hurting yourself with all of the goodwill that was coming from The Penguin. I do believe that The Penguin was more universally praised than the Batman, and they come from the same universe. So, look, the best thing they might be able to do then is to bring back Oswald Cobblepot as the main villain. I don't know if they would actually do that. And please don't bring Robert Pattinson into the DCU. Just don't do it. Leave them as separate worlds. If you have to call what Pattinson is Elseworlds, then do it. But don't bring him into the DCU and leave them as their separate projects. Look, like I said, The Penguin was universally praised. They need to get things organized because even more, Marvel is probably even worse than them now at this point with the amount of projects that get announced and then sidetracked and then canceled. But DC and Warner Brothers are not known for having great organization and putting things out that people can feel confident in. You're not going to bring people back to DC, and you're not going to win back over fans until you get 2, 3, 4 hits in a row. Marvel didn't build up all that goodwill because Iron Man was great. They built up the goodwill because Iron Man was great, and then several of the films over the next few years were also consistently at least good to above average, and then becoming great a lot of the time in the third phase. So let's go through some of these tweets because there was a lot of people who got into this, who covered it, and were a lot more succinct than I am. So let's go and look at some of these. I thought some of these were great. So Quarter Black Garrett says, off the hit TV show Penguin, DC decides to push the movie into the far future to make sure all hype is gone. WB is dumb is an elemental fact of the universe. Yes, my friend, it is absolutely true that they are very, very stupid. What's weird is... we'll get into it later, but they were talking about how DC fans or Batman fans are now starved in the way that Superman fans used to be. But what's sad is, like, before we got the Batman, but they never even got really a Ben Affleck solo Batman film. So they're taking great missteps with the character that is the most beneficial to them. If you look at DC Comics, it's just nothing but Batman comics, or even DC animated movies. You get endless Batman animated films because they know where their bread is buttered, but for some reason they cannot crack that code when it comes to the studio level live action films post Nolan. Nina Infinity says, 5 years from part 2 of a film set in a universe that has nothing to do with the James Gunn's DC universe. Meanwhile, they put out a killer TV show with the Penguin, which sparked more interest in Batman part 2, and now the interest is going to fizzle out. Yes. Yeah. You have all covered it very, very well, and they are all very, very accurate. This is where the pictures come in, and some people did some great pictures. This is from Culture Fake, not Culture Crave. Robert Pattinson will be almost the same age as Ben Affleck was in Batman vs. Superman when the Batman 2 releases. Affleck played a retired Batman, while Pattinson will play a Batman in his second year. I don't actually know if that's... I didn't do the math on that. I don't remember how old... I mean, Ben Affleck was on the older side, but obviously the point was that he was playing an older Batman. But I love the pictures of... Culture Crave says, James Gunn comments, this is his talking about the years in between the films. So again, I think that with entertainment the way it is now, you need to do more to get things out in closer succession, lest you lose the interest of your audience, especially after you just won it all back with the goodwill of the Penguin. This one, for the first time in history, Batman fans are starving. Yeah. Yes, they are starving. Well, no, because they had Batman Caped Crusader this year, but that didn't get nearly the praise that the Penguin did. Granted, it was an animated series. So this one says, first look at Bruce Wayne in Batman Part 2. If you're not watching the screen, did you see that thing recently, guys, where Netflix said that they make sure that in scripts that they talk about what they're doing? They completely ignore show don't tell, because they know that people only watch Netflix half-heartedly with stuff on in the background. This is a very old and withered Battinson. And one more, this was my personal favorite. The Batman Part 3, circa the year 2058. Guys, they've got a lot of goodwill from the Penguin. They need to get back on track. I do have more faith in James Gunn as a producer. I'm still not sure how I feel about James Gunn doing Superman, given the fact that I feel like his sensibilities, his sense of humor and storytelling may not necessarily gel with it, and I've got my own issues with just how crowded that film works, that film looks. But they've got a chance if they give James Gunn the ability to actually make decisions and they don't interfere the way, and I'm talking about Warner Brothers now, and they don't interfere the way that Warner Brothers did with Zack Snyder, they have a chance to, at the very least, put out a cohesive world where all of the films, like, they gel together and they're all part of one universe rather than the disjointed mess that we've gotten over the last 5 to 10 years. I'd be interested to know, do you guys even have any interest in the Batman Part 2? Did you like the first one? It was one of those films, like, sometimes I watch a movie and I really, maybe not, okay, so sometimes I watch a movie and I like it, and then I grow to like it more the more I think on the film, and especially more the more that I watch it. The Batman was kind of the opposite for me. It was fine when I watched it. Way too long, in my humble opinion. Granted, I don't like long movies, but 2 hours and 50 minutes was just, it was way too long for me. There was way too much melodrama for me. It didn't work. And the things that I liked about it, I really liked after it was done. But the more I sat with the film, the less that I enjoyed it. And I've kind of come to that opinion later that it just wasn't the film for me. I enjoyed that pacing more for the Penguin. Granted, I'm not, I kind of wilt at the idea of the hour-long to hour and 20-minute long episodes, 8 episodes long. But since it was released once a week, it was fine. Are you guys even excited for the Batman Season 2? do you have any faith that they are going to be able to pull off a movie like this, given how disjointed Warner Brothers and DC always seems to be? Once again, I want to say Merry Christmas to each and every one of you that watch this channel. Thank you so much for joining us, and wish you a Happy New Year. We will be back with brand new episodes of Pop Culture Crisis, January 6th, 3 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned. Be there. More videos coming soon. Later, guys. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.